It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Welcome to We've Got Issues, heard on Rockland World Radio every Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to check out the archives for past programs. And now the hosts of We've Got Issues, Lizanne Fiorentino and Liz Beneschag.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, how you doing?
Welcome to a snowy Tuesday in Rockland.
I wasn't ready for that. Were you ready for that?
And so it begins.
Yeah.
So it begins.
No toes out.
Nope, toes are done. Toes are done for the season. Anyway, today we're again going to talk a little bit about taxes, both at the county level and the town level. A lot of back and forth this year. There have been changes on both sides, and we actually have Ed Day from the county legislature with us today to sort of walk us through what's happening at the county level. So.
Right. So it's going out a little bit broader into that arena. So Ed, are you on the line, sir?
Hi, Roseanne and Liz, how are you?
We are well.
We're
How
well.
you doing? How was your Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great. My son Mike was up from Fort Bragg for a couple of days, so it was good seeing him.
Very
and,
good.
My oldest son Chris and my grandson were over, so it was really great.
Good.
You don't get them together too often, with both of them, either having served or are serving in the Army. So you enjoy that moment when you can.
That's
yeah,
right.
absolutely.
That's
and
right.
wonderful. Thank you for their service and letting them
Yes.
do it. It's a good dad.
Right?
I didn't have much choice in the matter.
Ah, there you go. I guess that's a parenting lesson.
That's apparent.
Yeah, proud of them.
So
Okay.
I have some things. You have some things. I'll let you go first.
I guess if you could just sort of give us an overview of, I know the budget hasn't been made public yet, and I think one of the sort of big discussion points this year has been that there's been, and if at any point I'm wrong or using incorrect words, let me know, a shift from some expenses that previously the county was absorbing and are now asking the towns to include in their budgets.
Yes, and this is Roseanne.
Lizanne.
Yeah, you're going in and out as I hear you. Just so you know.
Oh, sorry.
That's, just the way it is, or whatever. But I caught most of what you said. First of all, the proposed budget. The way this works, the county executive proposes a budget. He in fact did so, on time. As just at the end of the wire. Actually, it gives us a few weeks to look at it and try to see, what kind of sense we can make of it and where, if anything, we should amend. As it relates to the issue of transfer, of course, yes, that has occurred on a number of issues. It's happened with the Board of Elections. It may happen with mosquito control. It happened with community college chargebacks.
Right.
Frankly, it's a self-defeating situation because what's occurred is that if you take a look at the two different budgets, the county tells the town level of government, well, you are now going to pick up the cost of X, okay? We are not going to pick up that cost. And now the town has their budget compromised because they have a hole in their budget.
Right.
So that's hit number one that occurs. Hit number two is going forward, even though now the town knows about this, they have to now put it in their budget. Here's the problem. I've said this many, many times. We're talking about which pocket is it coming out of, your right pocket or your left pocket?
Right. That was going to be my question. So whereas this change in where these charges are allocated
Right.
will either help or not help the county versus the towns, but the net to the resident, it's still coming through to us.
Yeah, I'll put it very bluntly. It hurts the residents. It hurts citizens. It is not the way things should be done. It is I've called this before. It's the provincial approach to government. You have a different levels of government that are concerned primarily with their budget,
Right.
And what the end of the year looks like to them, and that happens at every level of government. The problem is what is often lost in the reality check that everybody should be having is that every penny that comes into any government comes in the pockets of taxpayers.
Right.
Right. So whether we're paying it
It's
to the
on our
town,
dime,
right.
we're
So whether
paying
it's
it.
the village, the town, the county, the state,
It's all the same thing.
We're still writing the
I've said
check.
this many times. I wish the entire media, when they report about what's funding something, that they say People will pay taxes to the federal government. People will pay taxes to the state government. People have a better sense of what we're talking about. But this gets lost in the shuffle. Now, what I found particularly frustrating here is that myself and a couple of others brought this issue up and said, look, this is not going to solve anything. This, in point of fact, is going to make it worse. You see town levels of government now, because they got shortchanged in mid-year, they have to play catch-up.
Right.
And this just results in an increased cost to taxpayers. Now, some of us take a different approach, and because we realize this is not the way to go. The community college piece, for example, what we did, those chargebacks came out to about $1.8 million spread across 5 different towns. And now this really is sourced when students go outside the county, whether they come here or go elsewhere, and outside the resident counties. And the chargebacks are supposed to be a balancing act. What's happened is that a major piece of that chargeback number, $1 million of the $1.8 million, we found to be sourced within the Fashion Institute of Technology.
It was FIT that
Right.
did that. I remember hearing something
Right.
about this, and the fact that it was FIT, and it's not a community college.
No, well, what happened is back in the late 70s, there was advocacy done by a number of educators and people, which is the way the world works, which is fine. And in the late 70s, FIT was under the community college mission and expanded to the bachelor's degree and expanded to a master's degree.
level.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it comes down to, our position was, I was joined with this, just so people know, this is a bipartisan assessment. This is, Senator Ken Zabrowski joined us on this issue. Legislator Chris Carey from the legislature joined us. We had town council people, George Holman, Luann Knopko, and Paul Valentine with us. These are people from various ends of the county and bipartisan, mix of Democrats and Republicans,
Right.
to try to work together. What we proposed was to remove the FIT from the funding mechanism. That alone takes $1 million of the $1.8 million out of the budgets. That is a permanent solution. There's no chargeback. There's no pass-alongs. It's dollar-for-dollar savings to taxpayers. And here's our position.
All right, let me just interrupt you for a minute. This is something that has to be done at the state level, right?
It has to be state legislation. And again, working together, Senator Zabrowski has said he will introduce that legislation.
Okay.
And this is not the first time this has come up. So there's some chance this will occur because this is hurting everybody.
Yeah.
And
Right.
to have this one school treated in such a way, I think is unfair in many, many ways. For example, we have senior citizens in our county who are struggling to pay their school tax bill. Now they are looking to have to pay for a student who wants to go for a master's program to FIT. You have parents, including
that needs
myself.
to be
Right.
brought down.
It-
It absolutely. So
We
what
have a
has? So
legitimate
what's the
conversation
Ed?
with our 2 sons about how we're going to pay for college, what college you're going to go to. And we made decisions as a family that they would invest partially in education, they would take small loans out, they would go to schools under certain guidelines, attaining a certain grade, and that was the understanding. We didn't go to our next door neighbor and ask for help, which is what this is all about.
I have a
People
question.
understand taxes, when you need help, you're going to your neighbor, you're not going to some entity. And, so we felt it was wrong. And Ken is going to introduce legislation, and I will support the legislation in the county to support this effort and remove $1 million away from taxpayer funds. That's exactly how you deal with issues. in my
Okay,
opinion.
that's
All
you
right.
know what? That's great.
Yeah, I actually want to go back to an earlier point that, again, just as sort of a clarification for me. You had said early on that the county executive presents you, the legislature, with a budget.
Correct.
Who actually created that proposed budget? I mean, obviously, it's not the county executive sitting in a room by himself.
The administrator, we don't know. I mean, it comes to the minute. It's presented by the county executive. Presumably, it's a collaborative effort amongst his agency heads and commissioners. But it's presented from the administrator, from the executive branch.
Okay.
So
Who-
so
So it's
the
sort of-
county exec's team puts this budget together.
Right, so
yeah.
it's department heads and, okay, and then the legislature sees it for the first time and then goes through it line by line.
Right, and therein lies one of the problems. Legislator Chris Carey tried this year to do something that made a lot of common sense. Let's get this budget earlier. Let's be in the process earlier so we don't
Right.
end up getting it with the 5 weeks trying to make some sense of it all. And again, this year, we got it about a half hour before the deadline.
Yeah, and how do you
Right, how do you-
Heads or
Look,
tails of
I've
it.
done budgets in the private sector and the public sector. This is not the way to run an organization. It's as simple as that. We end up in more of an adversarial approach in trying to get to information. That
Right.
is not the way to do things. The timeline is highly suspect to try to get all the information down. And look, we are 17 citizens trying to do our level best with
Right.
a budget that we know only a certain amount of information about. I mean, that's the bottom line. We don't have the same ability to gain information from departments as the administration does. So we're at a bit of a disadvantage. So I've been here 6 years doing this, and I have seen a distinct change from 2006, 2007 to now as to how these budgets go from promulgation to acceptance to approval. I really do. So, and it's not a positive observation.
Okay, let me ask you another question, and this is strictly just opinion on everybody's part. But you having a background in law enforcement, I'm curious as to your take on this. With everyone being squeezed from every angle on money, rising costs, there's been talk over the years, I'm here 20 years, every now and then it comes up again as a discussion of having a countywide police force
Right.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Is it viable? Is it cost effective? And do you think it'll ever happen?
Okay, well, to your point in order, as far as it being viable, of course it's viable. I don't happen to agree with the notion, frankly, and I'll tell you why. The cost effectiveness, it's always sold as a cost effective approach.
Well, that's why I'm asking, is it actually?
Here's what I would say to people very simply. I would say look at the Village of Haverstraw. They disbanded their department. Look at the Village of Nyack. They disbanded their department. And ask the people there for, I think, the 5% they saw of savings on their bill if they feel better about not having their own police department. Okay, and that's really what it comes down to. The reality is that the savings is not as high as people would think. There are a couple of dynamics to this. Number one, when you create a large department and absorb small departments, typically what happens is that the salaries will go to the highest level as a matter of course. Typically, you also in creating another level of oversight, a director of public safety, for example, and staff. So you're going to have other people running the five. We'll use New York City Police Department lingo, 5 precincts instead of 5 towns.
Right.
So you're going to have an overhead command established. So people need to look at that. And what I would say to people very simply is this. I personally think the model for law enforcement, based on an experience of serving in command and the executive capacity in another department, I think we can do this better. One of the things I certainly be looking at, as you both know, I did announce the county executive.
Oh, we
If
weren't
I
aware of
think
that.
people are good
That's
enough-
surprising to us, Ed. You're running?
Yeah, but the people believe in what I'm trying to do, and after hearing all the arguments left and right, if they put me in that spot, one of the things I would look at and use my experience for was to create a more dynamic model here in Rockland County that may not necessarily mean we have to go to a countywide department, because people have to understand something, is that resources are deployed by need. So there will be a movement, there will be an increased time of response to certain neighborhoods, and there'll be more officers deployed in other neighborhoods. That's just a practical matter. So, people, when they're going to decide whether or not they wish to have a countywide department, they should be very incisive, look at all the facts, don't buy into, commentary. Look at the fact that we've done it here in Rockland on a smaller scale. Look at the details of it, and if the people believe, because it was on the ballot once and voted down with some years back, obviously, if people believe they get more bang for their buck, and more importantly, they feel that the same level or an acceptable level of public safety is still present, then they'll vote a certain way. But the discussion really should not solely be about cost,
Right.
because
Okay.
the cost issue is not necessarily one in control of the county. When you're looking at, some people are very, very frustrated about pay rates. Well, the bottom line is that is completely out of control of the towns.
Yeah.
That is something that is negotiated to a point, but the reality is that the pay grades and pay scale is based upon ability to pay and also by comparability. So when you
Yeah,
look around,
that's a subject that's when
I
I
think
look,
that's
I mean,
state
and
law.
not that I disparage what any police officer does. My husband was a New York City fireman, so,
Right.
all respect from me. But that a patrol officer in Ramapo or Clarkstown or anywhere in Rockland is making six figures versus what a cop
In the
in
city.
Harlem is making is disgraceful.
That's why
when the
I
bulk of the
worked,
work is
up in
breaking
Manhattan
up
for 11
teen
years
drinking.
In Harlem, in Washington Heights, and I worked in the Bronx. I ended up leaving as a detective commander.
Right, but that's a subject for another
bottom line
day.
is that when you're looking at costs, people are very frustrated. I certainly get that. I mean, I have a budget here at home. I got to deal with it too. I got a 12-year-old Chevy out there in my driveway. So I get that. But
Right.
all I'm telling people is this: if you're going to make a decision on any issue, be incisive. Question. Don't buy into things you hear.
Right.
Get the knowledge. Find out what the truth is.
And that's,
Right, well, yeah, because
and that's
you-
basically why we're
Right,
here.
because you
That
can't
was the
give
whole-
people a soundbite education.
No.
And that's what very
spin.
much, yeah, that's what very much tends to happen. I want to change gears just
Yeah,
slightly,
'cause we're
very
finishing
quickly.
up.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're running for county exec.
Yes.
The other person that has thrown their hat into the ring
Two
is
people.
two people. Alon Schoenberg, who's the other one?
Dagan LaCourte, the mayor of the village of Suffern.
Okay. Do you know of anyone else, Ed, at this point?
I've heard rumors. I've heard David Freed's name has been out there, but nothing he hasn't announced formally, as far
Okay.
as I know.
Now, so obviously we're going to have primaries in both parties, yes?
All I would say is, the reality is each party, I can speak to the Republican Party, obviously, but each party has a convention, and they select a designee. Now, if the decision of the convention and the committee people in the convention is not acceptable, then yes, there could be a primary. It
Okay.
really depends on how it plays out, frankly.
Okay. And this is just a matter of question because I've had disagreements with people. If you're a registered independent, you can't vote in a primary.
No.
You cannot.
In some states you can.
But not in
Not
Rockland.
New York,
Not
no.
New York, okay.
You have to be registered in the party that you are voting in the primary of,
Right.
and that's how it works.
Okay, and then the other thing, there's rumors and innuendo and all kinds of things going on. It's been said that our current county exec might be leaving his office before the end of his term.
Uh-huh.
So he's denied that, and hopefully it won't happen. But if it does, what's the process there, and how does this go? Can you clarify that?
Briefly, the process, and I'm going to just generally go over it. Once the vacancy is declared in that office, the county legislature has the ability to appoint, should they so desire. They have a 30-day window to do that. After 30 days, if there's no appointment, there is a special election called, I believe, within 90 days of the vacancy, and that's only if there's not a general election within 120 days. So just to give an example, if that vacancy did happen February 1st, the legislature would have until March 3rd to appoint. If they didn't appoint, a special election would have to happen within a couple of months because it would still be more than 120 days to
Before November.
Right.
Right.
That's how that works. If they do appoint someone, that person would serve as county executive and have to run for election
Right.
that next November.
They might go screaming from the job, you
Right.
never know.
Right. It's the same as when Kristen Gillibrand
That's
took
what
over
said
for
to me,
Hillary.
why would you want to do this? And the reality is, this is why I'm asking. I'm seeking the nomination. I believe from a lot of different perspectives. My life experience, I've commanded and in crisis situations. Obviously, I've been involved in budgets. I have some sense of government now with a few years under my belt. Most importantly, I believe, is I've been to different places like Baltimore, where I knew nobody, and was able to have effective change happen. And I'm also 61 years of age. I'm in a position, I'm clearly not going to be a career politician. And I believe that the set of skills I bring forward from life experience, combined with the fact that I am focused on doing one thing and one thing only. I want to put this county back on its tracks. There has been, in my view, serious lack of decision-making going on. We have been running this county by committee and by reaction way too long. We need a path. We need a leader. We need somebody who knows how to lead and is not afraid to lead. And that's, when you're in a situation where, I'm looking to very simply give two sons who put their lives in the line for this country overseas, and I want to coach my grandson. I'm still coaching football. I want them to have an opportunity to stay here, and I believe there are ways that can be done if there is a unifying effort done by the right person who knows how to lead people.
Well,
I feel like
and I'll leave that on, and everybody in the county plays by the same rules.
Yeah, all right. Well,
Which doesn't
we're not-
happen at
Which
the
doesn't
moment.
happen. But yeah, listen, I think, Ed, we appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much for your time
my
today.
pleasure.
It will not be the last time we speak to you, I can guarantee you that. And unless you don't want to talk to us, and that's a whole nother story.
Also, last I heard, I think there's one, the good Lord makes that decision in his final analysis of how long we're going to be around to talk.
Oh, okay. Well,
right.
yeah, right. The world is ending again on the 21st of December, so it's okay. All right, Ed, have a wonderful day. We'll speak to you soon, and be well.
Thank you for
very
taking the
much,
time
ladies.
to come
Appreciate
today.
it. Have a good night.
You
All
too,
right,
Ed.
bye.
So we have. Thank you, Ed, for your.
Like thumping.
Yeah, it's the sky falling, Chicken Little running around. Yeah, we got some challenges in this county.
We do,
coming
we
up.
definitely do, and we've had them for a while. One of the things that I find interesting is talking about, we have these chargebacks or reallocations, however you want to refer to them. Ed mentioned what a few of them were: Board of Elections, college chargebacks, there's some narcotics task force items. Something I said, Richard?
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Technical
Please stand by.
difficulties. Having said that, my question would be, I'm assuming there is some equitable way that these costs have been allocated, whether it's I divide by 5
I think
or
that
by
the-
population.
I think that the key point there is you're assuming.
Assuming, and we always know that's never the best thing. But what I would ask people from each of the respective towns, town of Ramapo, the budget increase is almost 10%. That's what I said. After they blew right through the state cap, and they're in the somewhere between 9 and 10% tax increase. Of course, they're still trying to dig themselves out of the hole on the baseball stadium, which will be another whole topic. But they blew through the cap, almost a double-digit increase. Clarkstown blew through the cap, 6.2 increase. Orangetown stayed under the cap. Stony Point stayed under the cap. Haverstraw is up, and theirs could be almost 11%. So,
Interesting.
what
Why?
does Stony Point and Orangeburg know
That the rest of them don't.
that the rest of the county doesn't
or what?
know?
Or what were the challenges that the others faced
that maybe they did.
right?
I find it interesting between Stony Point and Haverstraw, although these are property taxes, they share a school district. And
And
that's
let us not forget
also-
something, that there was a big problem up in the North Rockland School District where they had something like $8 million in reserves.
Right.
That, because that's what my savings account is too. Yours as well, I assume.
Right.
$8 million.
I mean, the only thing I will say that I could, well, now even this doesn't really explain it, so this is something I'd like to put out to them,
Them?
the
You.
universal them. Orangetown does have a lot of ratables. There's
Yes,
a
there
lot
are.
of
Yes, huge.
yeah. So that sort of makes sense that you've got this good corporate white tax base, and by white I mean not nuclear plants,
Okay.
white ratables. Although Clarkstown, that shopping mecca of the planet,
Don't even go there.
also has a lot of
Yeah, but the
ratables.
thing is, though, didn't they get all kinds of special tax deals when they put that mall in? To put that mall in? And isn't that
Probably.
how it went through and how it happened? And there.
But I thought that was for 10 years, and we're past that. So I don't know the
because
answer.
that mall was built in 98,
Yeah.
right before Shannon was born.
So, as I said, obviously some of these increases, as Ed explained, came from these reallocations from the county. But there's a disparity. Some towns were able to stay under their cap, and others were not.
Right. Well, the other thing, I think that if we go back to what Ed was saying and we look at the budget issue, the fact that
the legislators do not have the ability to examine that budget at least a day in advance, a week in advance. I mean, that's,
Right. I mean, that's like reading the tax code in the bathroom.
Right.
I mean, it's just 10,000 pages.
right. It's very, very difficult. And I think that it's time for a change. I wish Scott Vanderhoff well. Personally, I like him. I think
Oh,
he's a
he's
very
great.
nice guy. He's done, and I would love to see someone come in that has enthusiasm and is proactive and wants to work with the legislature. So like, it is not an adversarial environment because it hasn't been pleasant for quite a while from what I understand.
Well, and I think to that degree, that's not unusual. In
Okay.
any
No, it isn't.
in any governing body, there will be, especially when you have different parties involved.
Right, but, you know, the more united we are as a county, a state, a country,
Right.
the more we can get accomplished. When you can build consensus in an area,
Right.
things can
Well, as you
get
said,
better.
you can't soundbite educate people, and yet that's exactly what happens.
Right.
You
It
know,
is. It absolutely
unless
is.
you sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with, and then there's voter apathy. You know, I could go on for days about that. But people are being, this is where they're getting their information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we live in a tweet-centered world.
Right.
Whether we know it or not. You know, tell me, but don't go over 140 characters.
Right, and that
And-
becomes a bit of an issue.
And that becomes an issue because, you know, a very simple question was a 20-minute answer in order to drill down to get to the facts.
Right, and a lot of times you run into a situation where you think that someone is posturing.
Well,
but
and
they're-
I was going to say, and
And
there's...
they're trying to explain, and not that we're accusing it of posturing.
No. But there's always, we're human. We have a perception, and it influences the way we respond to something.
Right,
So I wouldn't even go as far as to call it posturing or spin. It's,
it's our view.
right.
Because
I was
it's
going to
very
say it's more
personal.
intrinsic
Right,
than that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well,
Right.
next week, we're going to get to our soapbox moment in a minute,
Yeah.
but next week, we are going to be looking more at some budget stuff. I know it's a little dry, but we'll try to spice
Right.
it up a little bit. And you had reached out to,
Dagan LaCourte, who is currently the mayor of the Village of Suffern and has indicated that he is considering running for the county executive spot. And if he's available, I thought it would be interesting to get his perspective as what I would call an outsider.
right, because he's not on
Because
the
he's not,
legislature.
right, he's not in the county government
Right.
per se. So I thought that would be an interesting, as we say, perception.
Okay,
So hopefully he'll be available,
and we'll speak to him.
and we will speak to him.
Okay, so before we go to our soapbox moment, we
Yes.
have some exciting news. Pat on the back. It's really not a pat.
No,
We
it's-
should pat Richard on his back.
I
You
know,
wanna
but he's
come over
not here.
He's patting
He's
himself.
patting himself.
10 years, Rockland World Radio has been on the scene as Rockland's leader
Right.
in internet entertainment and spanning multiple genres
Right,
from
news, sports.
business, music,
healthcare.
independent music.
Right.
Holistic Community has a very large presence here, and one of the things that happens.
Well, I was going to say, what was very innovative and cutting edge 10 years ago when this started
Right.
is so mainstream now.
Right, it really is.
It's so mainstream.
And so if you are looking to promote your business to any of those communities, you know, make sure you pick up the phone, shoot Richard an email at Quinn@Rockland World Radio, Modern Metro.
Modern Metro.
Quinn@modernmetro.com. Sorry, I should look at the, oh, look here, there you go.
He's blocking us
He's
out.
blocking. We can make little faces
Right, we
now.
can make faces now. And again, I mean, we're talking about the station in its entirety is getting something like 94,000 visitors a month.
Woohoo, woohoo. They're all
That's a-
listening to us.
Yeah, every single one of them. That's a lot of prospective ears
Right.
to reach.
And eyes.
And eyes, and eyes.
That's right. Listen, it's really interesting because I think people may know that this is our second incarnation with Rockland World Radio. Our first was
My
your
third.
third, right?
I'm like a fungus. I just keep coming back.
I've heard that about you. And when we were first here, there was no video. We weren't on video. So Richard didn't share that we had to have hair and makeup done. Only a man
Would forget to mention that.
Yeah, but
Because we always said we have faces for radio.
yeah, there you go. I have everything for radio, actually. Anyway, soapbox. Okay, so small business is very important to support this time of year, as it is every time of year. But it isn't just from a retail perspective. Yes, you want to see, is there a way that you can purchase your jewelry at a jewelry store as opposed to a big box chain? And all of your other different items that you're purchasing for the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, if you buy Festivus for the rest of us, whatever you're going to do. But think about your restaurants, too.
Right.
Think about your pharmacies. Everybody likes their coupons that they get from those big box stores, but your local pharmacist and your little corner deli and your local food market and that little farm stand that's still open this time of year, they need your foot traffic, because just like you've got to put gifts on the table, they've got to put them on too.
Well, and not only that, to continue on that point, those are the businesses that tend more often to be the ones to give back
Right,
to the
exactly.
community. Like, for example,
70% of the money that you spend in a local store
Stays in the community.
stays in the community versus 30% in a big box store. So if you have a choice to go to,
well, and you can combine your advocacy of small business
Right.
along with your philanthropy. We talked about it a little bit last week. Hightower, as part of their fundraising
Right.
to build a new shelter, is having a couple of dine-out nights.
Right. So go to them.
Cinco de Mayo, the Turn in
Dog
Suffern,
House.
the Dog House, all coming up in the next week or two.
Yes.
So support your local business, support the animals, keep it in the community.
Right.
Rockland has a very county identity. I mean, we have our little towns and hamlets, but we
because if
identify
you-
as a county.
Right, because it's funny, when you go outside of this county, if you're in Manhattan, where are you from? I'm from
Rockland.
You don't say, unless you're talking to a fellow Rocklander, you don't say, where your
Right.
little town is. So make sure that you're supporting your local shops, as well as, I know that it was Cyber Monday, but it was Small Business Saturday, and I
Right.
think it should be Small Business Month.
Right, it
So-
should be.
So that's our little soapbox moment.
And on that, because I'm commandeering part of your soapbox, is shame on Havistraw if you approve that Walmart.
Okay,
You heard it here.
kicked me off my soapbox.
No, I shared it.
Please
But no,
be advised.
shame on Havistraw if you approve that. You're destroying a community, you're destroying small business, and we've already got one god-awful Walmart in the county as it is. Do we really need another one? No.
No, okay. Please be advised that all after-school activities for today, November 27th, have been canceled by Clarkstown Central School District. I just got a text message.
So chances are,
All the rest will be too.
yeah, so check the school's websites.
So we started on snow, and we're going to end on snow, and hopefully next week it'll be sunny, and there will be no snow.
Or at least no snow. I don't care if it's sunny.
I would like sunny too.
It would be nice, but as long as there's no
Listen,
snow.
I think you should make that happen, because you're so very important, and a legend in your own mind.
Rainbows and kittens.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, that's it. We're done.
We're done. We will see you next week.
Have a great week.
Visit us on the website, not the website, the Facebook page. I keep saying that.
And
Visit
let us
on the
know
web-
if you have something that you want us to look into, if you would like Lizanne to be your pit bull, let us know.
I'm on it.
Issues on your side.
Issues on your side.
That's
There
right.
you go. We could have your issues too. Okay, that's it. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.